Coming up,
Every generation of the royal family has to reinvent the role for the generation that they serve.
the role of a lifetime.
He's going to bring down to earth wisdom and connection.
That starts with heartbreak.
He could become king sooner than what he ever anticipated.
Those who know him best reveal how William
That's the what you see is what you get.
will wear the crown.
They're really going to do it their own way. They already are. That's not suddenly going to change with a crown on their heads.
That's next on 60 Minutes. Forget the palaces, the priceless jewels, and all those forever fussing servants. Being the king is not an easy job. In the 2.5 years Charles III has been monarch, royal watchers say he's been impressive, especially considering he's been fighting cancer for much of that time. The thought is dreaded, but the king's illness is a reality check for the firm. It means there's added impetus to ensure Prince William is match fit for a possible call-up to the top job. So how will the 42-year-old wear the crown? Is he really ready to reign? Imagine the pressure. For most of his life, Prince William has been preparing to become His Majesty. And for 7 years, Jason Kanoff was never far away. First, as his press secretary,
Duke and Duchess to the Okanagan. This marks the royal.
then as the CEO of the Royal Foundation. You say it's the privilege of your working life.
Oh, absolutely. It's never going to get cooler, right? It's never going to get better. You shouldn't do it forever because you'll probably go crazy. But, you know, what an amazing opportunity to have had.
From travelling the globe to holding the princess's handbag, Jason has done it all. He's still one of the prince's closest confidants. And for the first time, he's inviting us inside the royal circle to share who William really is and the type of king he's determined to be.
The thing I have heard from Prince William is you're going to do this in your own way. You know, every generation of the royal family has to reinvent the role for the generation that they serve.
Along with so many around the world, Jason was shocked and devastated to learn last year that William's boss and father was fighting cancer. All eyes turned to the prince, who at 42 could end up in the top job much sooner than anyone ever anticipated.
The succession planning operation is a kind of always-on thing.
Is it as formal as we think in terms of, you know, having lessons to be king?
I'm afraid I don't think it is. I think it's much more personal than that. You know, the lessons, as much as they are, they don't really look very much like what you might see in The Crown. This is about sort of private family conversations, learning by doing.
But also, for that big moment to come in William's life, he's got to lose his dad.
It's one of these terrible paradoxes of this job.
Even more daunting for the prince, around the same time, he was forced to contemplate what it would be like to wear the crown without his wife by his side. Like his father, Kate had cancer.
This, of course, came as a huge shock. And William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family.
Catherine's heartfelt announcement came after weeks of intense and sometimes bizarre speculation about her health.
Where is Kate Middleton? Where are you, Kate?
It made an already terrible time even more stressful for the future king.
Within a couple weeks, if you're Prince William, you find out that both your wife and your father have cancer. And that is, I mean, I couldn't believe it.
Do you remember that phone call between you and William about Kate's diagnosis?
It was awful, absolutely awful. It's the lowest I've ever seen him. But the problem was that all this crazy sort of conspiracy theory stuff kicked off in the background online. Was she really ill? But they didn't want to say yet that she had cancer because they hadn't told the children and they were still working through how to tell the children.
Although I finished chemotherapy,
The whole world was relieved last September when the princess announced she'd finished her treatment.
Each day as it comes.
But to her husband and children, it meant even more.
This time has above all reminded William and me to reflect and be grateful for the simple yet important things in life, which so many of us often take for granted.
Jason says what's always mattered most to this family is family.
They made very clear when we were doing things like planning out the year ahead or going through the diary or anything like that, is they had to have time to be parents first.
It was Jason's job to help the prince and princess find the difficult balance between their public duties and private family life. Royal births were always a challenge,
Alice is the red-hot favourite at 6-4. Charlotte's odds have been cut in half.
with the rest of the world watching and waiting.
You know, you have hundreds and hundreds of journalists and photographers from all over the world that arrive in London, camping outside, trying to get their spot. Well, meanwhile, behind the scenes, you have, a very pregnant member of the royal family and her husband who are trying to get their lives organized for the arrival of a different child.
Back in 2015, so close was Jason to the royal couple, they told him, even before they told their families, the happy news: Princess Charlotte had arrived. He was given a note with the details everyone wanted to know, including the gender. But then there was a slip-up.
We weren't going to announce it for another couple hours, and I had this piece of paper to go write this press release. I'm still out there with the hundreds of journalists trying to have a game face. And then I couldn't find the piece of paper. And I think I had dropped it somewhere on the street, which we managed to get through and not announce it. But somewhere on that street the entire time was a piece of paper that said there had been a little princess born, what time and how much she weighed. It was one of those things that like heartbeat until we got to the announcement and I got through it.
Did you find it?
Almost was, no, I never found it. And neither did any of the media though, so that's all that really mattered.
I think one of the really likeable things about William is that he's a bit daggy dad. Do you think that will change?
No, I mean, he's made it clear from, the moment he had Prince George, his first child, that family was always going to come first.
How do you think his dad role will change?
It really depends on how old the children are.
Roya Nicker is the royal editor at the Sunday Times newspaper.
Are they still children and need a hands-on father?
She says their children were the reason William and Kate decided to move from Kensington Palace in London to a smaller family home less than an hour away on the Windsor Castle estate.
Adelaide Cottage, where they live, is a 5-bedroom house. There are no spare rooms, there's no live-in nanny, there's no live-in housekeeper. It's really just them as a core family unit.
Here in the countryside, the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children have been able to enjoy the most normal kind of life they could ever hope to have. It's something they'll be desperately trying to protect when Mum and Dad become King and Queen.
I don't see a time where they move permanently back into London. Their private office will be, in London. You don't need to move back in to keep, to keep the flow of monarchy going.
I have 3 young kids similar age to William and Kate. It's chaos.
But I think, I think they feel they're slightly coming, out of the woods.
Out of the bubble?
Of course, the pressures on William and Catherine when they're king and queen will be bigger. But I still don't think that the institution for William and Kate will come before family.
Is this filming?
Hello? Hello?
I think the biggest thing, probably the thing we talked about most, especially in those early years, was how he and the princess were going to prepare their children for life in the public eye. His childhood in front of the media was quite difficult at times, and he knew that he was going to be raising his kids to deal with social media and mobile phones and all of that stuff.
So we'd see public William, but you'd see worried Dad.
But yeah, I definitely saw the worried Mum and Dad behind the scenes, but a lot less in recent years, which has been fantastic for them as a family.
The children will also have huge roles to play when it comes to putting Britain's best foot forward on the world stage. once their dad is head of state.
What a nice group. He's a good man.
And the royal charm is something William has already mastered.
We've just seen him in Paris with Donald Trump, the first, senior British figure to meet him after his re-election. He met him before Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister. There's a reason for that. That's the soft power diplomacy of our monarchy.
Clearly, royal diplomacy works. Who could forget the adorable images of 2-year-old Prince George meeting the Obamas in 2016?
Slightly before his bedtime, they're like, well, it'd be nice to have this memory of him saying hello to this historic president.
They're real pinch-me moments, aren't they, for you?
Yes, but it's kind of afterwards you have to have the pinch me, because if you're pinching yourself while you're seeing it, you can't do your job. But yeah, afterwards, we walked out into the courtyard at Kensington Palace, and the Beast, the presidential limousine, is there, and George is looking at this thing like has never seen anything like it. And, that's when you could be a little bit more like, this is a weird job. It's a really strange job to have.
The job was doubly demanding for Jason because he didn't just work for the heir, but also the spare. After the break, could William and Harry's broken brotherly bond ever be rebuilt? Do you think Harry's role in the royal family could change once his brother is king? If there's one thing Prince William has always been good at, it's drawing a crowd.
Good evening.
When royalty calls, the stars shine bright. And it was Jason Kanoff's job to harness that publicity as his press secretary.
Neither of the prince or the princess would choose to be public figures. They're not that interested in the fame and celebrity that comes with it. In fact, not really interested at all. And I think that, that makes it quite interesting in today's world to see people out there doing their jobs, but for the right reasons.
It was your job, Jason, to control their image, and they are the most popular royals. You must have done a good job.
Well, I don't think anyone can control the image of anyone in today's media world, social media world. You just can't. All you can do is help people be themselves. With both of these people, with the Prince and Princess, what you see is what you really get behind the scenes as well.
For the first 4 of his 7 years with the royal family, Jason was a key advisor for not just William and Kate, but Harry and Meghan too. At the couple's very first public appearance together, Jason was right behind them.
I worked really closely with the two of them, and we had lots of great times. Working on their wedding was an amazing, magical experience. I wish them absolutely all the best with their lovely family.
If you sense there's a bit more to the story, you're right. While Jason was keeping a close eye on the couple's public image, behind the scenes, a storm was brewing. Just a few months after he joined them on this trip to Ireland in 2018, their first as husband and wife, Jason raised concerns the Duchess was upsetting junior staff.
I am very concerned that the Duchess was able to bully 2 PAs out of the household in the past year. We have had report after report from people who have witnessed unacceptable behavior.
I think so much of it is...
Fast forward 3 years, and that email was leaked to the media, just days before Harry and Meghan's explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey.
I don't know how they could expect that after all of this time, we would still just be silent if there is an active role that the firm is playing in perpetuating falsehoods about us.
The PR man suddenly found himself in the spotlight, and it only intensified when he gave evidence in a court case between Meghan and a tabloid newspaper. But ever the professional, he's still choosing his words carefully. You had some unwanted public attention on you. Was it tough?
I think it's tough, but it's probably quite good. Someone who has been helping other people through how to deal with the public eye. You probably have to take your own medicine sometimes. You can't choose just to take the fun stuff in any job. And that applies to the prince and princess as well as everyone else working for them. So I wouldn't change anything.
You wouldn't do anything differently?
No, not what I would have sought. But at the end of the day, you get to do an amazing job. You've got to take everything that comes with it.
It was an honour to be asked to be based at Highgrove because it's...
Like Jason, Grant Harold knows what it's like to work for the royals.
And then go for it.
He was King Charles's butler at his country property, Highgrove, during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II.
What was it like to work at Highgrove?
It was amazing. I mean, it's the King's private home, his sanctuary, if you like. So it was
Some of his fondest memories are watching William and Harry back when they were teenagers and the best of mates.
Two of them were the practical jokers. They were a team where they used to wind each other up, and if you were involved in it, you get brought into this winding up situation, this comedy, brotherly kind of fun. It was like that all the time. That's why it's so sad how that's completely changed. It's extraordinary how much it could change.
Harry and Meghan announced they'll be stepping down as senior...
It's been 5 years since Harry and Meghan stepped down from their royal duties.
Trapped within the system.
And while he hasn't held back...
My father and my brother, they are trapped. They don't get to leave.
William has maintained a dignified silence. But Jason knows it's been extremely tough.
We have ups and downs in family. Even when you really love someone, you can have times when you don't want to spend that much time with them. It's very difficult to have this stuff play out in the public eye, but he's chosen to keep his thoughts on it private. And I think all of us who know him really have to respect that we should do the same. But I will say, of course, it's been hard and sad, especially for all of us who know both of them.
Do you think Harry's role in the royal family could change once his brother is king?
I can't speculate on the future. They achieved a lot together, and none of that can ever be taken away. This may be an extraordinary family that everyone gets to talk about and write about and see be interviewed and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a family.
I have. Yes, kind of similar to that.
If you ask Grant, the broken bond won't last forever.
Never before.
You would have served many a tea for the king.
It's a big part of the royal way of life.
If anything could bring the brothers back together,
He's a good-looking ginger, it's all right.
he believes it will be William's coronation.
I have no doubt that Wayne would want his brother to be, not so much maybe to play a part in it, but certainly to be there.
Do you think Harry wants anything to do with it?
It appears to be he's quite happy with his kind of new life and his way of doing things, which is you couldn't get further away from the royal family if you could by what he's doing. But in saying that, I still think he would be there to support his brother as he has been for his father.
Nearly 2 years after Harry and Meghan left the palace, Jason Knopf did too. But he remains close to William and in 2023 was formally recognised for his service. Was it a hard job to leave?
It was very sad, but also quite fun. The prince and princess threw a really nice party for me, and he roasted me and gave me a very good comedy roast farewell speech, recounting all the mistakes I had made for about 15 minutes. I mean, and he can do a good stand-up routine for sure.
While Jason isn't employed by the royal family anymore, he still works closely with William on the Earthshot Prize. It's an annual award that funds ideas aimed at fixing the world's biggest environmental problems. And the Prince is much more than just the face of it.
Everything our planet gives us.
He's working the phones in the UK. We have this plastic alternative company that won the Earthshot Prize, and they make these things for stadiums, like to replace hot dog and burger packaging. And he's called all the individual owners of all the football stadiums in the UK and is almost done replacing all the plastic in stadiums in the UK personally.
His charity work is his duty, but he's also really good at it, isn't he?
Amazing at it.
Sabrina Cohen-Hatton also knows William well. She's sat across from him too many times to count as an ambassador for his charity, Homewards.
And he's really compassionate with people as well.
The 41-year-old has come a long way from her teenage years sleeping rough and never imagined the future king would be the one to help her in her quest to prevent homelessness. How do you explain or get someone like Prince William to understand that kind of dark corner of society?
And what I would say about the Prince is he really understands trauma because he's had his own experiences of it. It doesn't matter who an individual is. If they've had an experience where they've experienced pain and loss, then they can relate to that.
Very enthusiastic about things, pushes himself right into it. He's not at all shy.
Much like his mum, William has rarely struggled to connect with people.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you.
Nobody knows when it will be his turn to wear the crown.
Man of life and limb, so help me God.
But one thing seems certain. Whenever it is, that charisma will serve him well. One more question. William's beard. Are we here for it?
I love it. I think it's great. But I've talked to him about it, or tried to talk to him about it. And he's like, it's here. I have a beard. You know, no further conversation.
Does Catherine like it?
If she didn't like it, it wouldn't be there. I can tell you that.
Hello, I'm Dimity Clancy. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.